Thank you. Yeah, we're going to talk about Bluetooth security testing with BlueToolkit and our large case automotive case study. So first of all, a quick introduction about Bluetooth, technology which many of you are familiar with. It's a short-range wireless communication protocol. It's a standard, de facto standard for short-range communication. There are too many flavors. We can call them flavors of Bluetooth. There is Bluetooth Classic, usually referred to as BR ADR, which is used for audio streaming and high-rate data transfer. And then there's Bluetooth Low Energy, which is BLE, for low-rate data transfer and for low-latency audio streaming, even though this is just a recent addition to the standard. And we're going to focus on Bluetooth security. Bluetooth security follows the trust and first use model, so the TOFU model. And it focuses on two main protocols. There's a pairing protocol, which is a long-term key agreement protocol. It's used to establish a root of trust, which is called the pairing key. And it can be authenticated, optionally authenticated, in two ways, with user assistance or with an out-of-band channel. And then we have the session establishment protocol, which is the second one. It's a short-term key agreement protocol. It's used to derive the encryption key from the pairing key and then actually use the encryption key to encrypt the communication. And this only happens between paired devices. So the order, the flow, it's pairing and session establishment. One cannot happen without the other. So Bluetooth security, an overall look at it, it's affected by many vulnerabilities, which result in huge privacy and security threats. There are more than 108 known attacks, more than 900 CVE entries, probably more than 1,000 as of today. That number is not updated, but these vulnerabilities, we can divide them in protocol level and implementation level. The protocol level ones are caused by errors in the standard and the specification, can affect all devices that are standard compliant, and usually they result in either spoofing or man-in-the-middle attack. They are quite generic. And then we have the implementation level ones that are dependent on the implementation. So each different vendor has its own implementation, whatever they have. They can have misimplementation, some errors, and they usually result in denial of service issues. So your device crashes, remote code executions, which are kind of rare, but there have been a couple of zero keys. So maybe you get one session key, which is zeros, and then, of course, you have no encryption. And yeah, that's more or less it. So why we wanted to go with BlueToolkit? Because there's no actual way at the moment to do automated large-scale testing for Bluetooth devices. Bluetooth stacks are mostly closed source. Like Bluetooth classic stacks are closed source. There's no open source full Bluetooth stack. BLE, there is some open source alternative, but that's a different story. And also, because existing tools for doing testing and also proof of concept that used in these tools are scattered. They do not work together, and they require different equipments, different specific hardware sometimes. For example, the Breaktooth, Swaintooth, and Internal Blue, those are three collections of tools, but also proof of concept of the actual exploits. And they require either some boards, ESP devices with custom firmware. The other one requires an Nordic device with custom closed source firmware. Internal Blue ones requires a rooted Google Nexus 5, which when it was released, it was a common phone to acquire. Now it's not so much common because it's quite old. And so we decided to try to put together most of the things that are available online and try to make them work together. And we came out with BlueToolkit, which is a comprehensive security testing framework for Bluetooth. It basically uses a black box approach to do over-the-air vulnerability testing. And it tries to mimic Metasploit in some way, because it tries to enable systematic testing at a scale. We wanted to produce readable reports, and we want it to be easy to extend with new exploits, so without having a specific hardware restriction. It's basically a global accumulator that can do everything. It was initially worked with only for BR ADR, so Bluetooth Classic, but now we actually extended it with BLE support, even though the paper still refers to the Bluetooth Classic version. And the main design is quite simple. We have 3 sub-modules, a recon module, an execution exploit module, and a report module, with the recon and execute exploits that interact with the target device, and the user only gives the initial input to the recon module, and of course, gets the output. So the recon module collects parameters that can be used later on, so Bluetooth version, Bluetooth modes, in this case BLE or classic, possible profiles which are utilized by different applications like music streaming or content sharing or calls, and then the security modes that are used. And this produces a first JSON report that then is used from the execution module to do some tailored testing. So we don't execute random testing against the devices. We actually check, OK, this device supports this security, so it makes sense to do this. And this module now abstract over BLE and Bluetooth Classic. It is mostly SCAPA based, and it produces, as I said before, human and machine readable JSON report, in which you have an example here. So this is just a subset. You also have the full report is actually quite long. But yeah, so you can see that you have the possible link layer feature, pairable and pairing feature. We basically tell you if it's supporting authentication, LSC, which is legacy security, and the key sides, to which we will come later back on. And then we have the exploit execution module, which basically execute the exploits based on the data that we reckoned before, and supports whatever kind of exploit. So we don't pose any limit to it. Whatever you can code, it works. We have some man in the middles. We have some remote code execution, denial of service. We have the 44 exploit at the moment. I forgot to put the number somewhere there, but yeah. And we set exploits that can terminate either after timeout or via specific condition. This is kind of a limit for us because some exploits, if it's difficult to know when a device actually times out. If it crashes, it can give false positives, false negatives. That's quite of an issue for the moment. But yeah, the exploit execution model uses Python script, binaries, whatever an exploit you want it to be, it can be. And we have YAML templates that are used to abstract over it. YAML template, as you can see in the example, it just sets some basics. So you give him the main command, which in this case is a Python script that you run with Python, and then you give him a set of parameters. So the Bluetooth version, maximum and minimum that you want to support, target, and this stuff is then processed by the engine, and which then executes the actual exploit, of which we have an example now for the knob attack. This is the knob attack. Just to summarize it, the pairing protocol, which we saw before, lets device negotiate the entropy of the pairing key, which is essentially the length of the pairing key, which default is 16 bytes. You can tell them, OK, we want to use 7 bytes, and then the remaining bytes are set to 0, which makes it easier to brute force. So with the pairing key, then an attacker, what can do? It can decrypt whatever past future messages and do device impersonation. Now you know what the knob attack is. This is essentially how it is implemented. So just a few lines of code, and then it outputs an high-level report vulnerable, report not vulnerable with a specific message, so that it can either be processed by human reader or not. And this is when the report module comes in. It produces a final JSON report that is also both machine and human readable, and that basically summarizes, in this case, code 0. It means that the vulnerability was found, and we get a nice message. And yeah, that's it. So how did we evaluate the tool? Because yeah, we did it. We put together a lot of exploits. We managed to have this kind of wrapper that takes everything and works. We saw that there was no large-scale automotive evaluation. So basically, we said, no one is looking at Bluetooth in cars, but every car has Bluetooth as of today. Mostly classic Bluetooth. It is used for infotainment systems, so to connect your phone, play music, use Android Auto or CarPlay nowadays. It uses the profiles that we saw before to do calls, contact sharing, and of course music streaming and more. One issue with this, and which makes it one of the most interesting things, is that the EVs are connected obviously to the rest of the car. Here I'm showing like a very, very high level structure of how a car can be organized. So you have the infotainment system, which is then connected to the Bluetooth interface, which is an open point from the external world. And the infotainment system is then connected to the CAN bus, which is connected to the central gateway of the car, which manages air pressures of the tire, the steering wheel, whatever. There was an example at Black Hat Asia 2025 of an exploitation on a Nissan Leaf that through remote control execution over Bluetooth on the EV system managed to take control of the car, like full control of the car. And so this is an interesting point. So we evaluated a total of 22 vehicles from 14 manufacturers. The vehicles spanned from year 2015 to 2023 with many Bluetooth versions and different chip manufacturers. In total, we found the cars to be vulnerable to 189 vulnerabilities. And this kinda proved our initial thought, of course, that the automotive security posture for Bluetooth is weak. Here I summarized a bit the results. We have a really, really big table coming up if someone is curious, but you can see we tested both classic cars, electric vehicles, hybrid cars, different brands, different years, very recent also because Tesla's 2023, Toyota's 2023. All of them resulted in at least a couple of positives. Of course, in those 44 tests, there are some denial of service for the EV system that are not really critical, but still it shows that even those are known vulnerabilities from 6 years ago, 7 years ago, they still apply to modern Bluetooth stacks. They still apply to cars, and cars are difficult to update also. Maybe not the recent ones, not electric vehicles. They are mostly connected. They include SIM cards. But when you think about updating the system of cars, mostly you have to recall the car and update it, bring it to the repair shop to do some kind of updates. It's not that easy. But over this, we also found some interesting implementation issues, like novel implementation issues affecting cars. So we have these three main. I will talk only about the first two, so contact extractor and insecure numeric comparison, which are information leak and authentication bypass. Then if we have time and questions, there's also the just worse downgrade, which is another interesting authentication bypass. But yeah, the contact extractor, which is kinda interesting, basically it allows you to extract contacts from a system of a car. So when you connect your phone to a car, you can decide whether to share contacts or not, and a specific profile, specific protocol exists for this in Bluetooth. And once you share contacts from your smartphone to the car stores the contact. Then the contacts are linked to the Bluetooth MAC address, yes, but they are not encrypted, and they can be accessed without authentication. So if someone leaves a car without canceling the Bluetooth connection, the Bluetooth pairing with the phone, an attacker can spoof the phone and access to the contacts. For this, an attacker is required to have physical access to the car. So you cannot simply get the contacts back, because that's not how PBAP work. You have to access the car and start, like use the keyboard to select the contacts. This obviously, is not feasible in every scenario, but it can be feasible for car sharing and car rental services. This is a quick MSC example. So essentially, you have the phone first classically connect to the car, share the contacts, then disconnects, goes away, forgets to unpair. Charlie arrives, spoofs the phone, connects, easy. access to the car. And the second one is the insecure numeric comparison. So as we said at the beginning, if someone remembers, pairing can be authenticated with user assistance or out-of-band channels. One of the user assistant methods is called numeric comparison. Basically, the two devices display a PIN code, 6-digit PIN code, and the user has to press OK on both devices to say, yeah, the code is the same, I confirm I want to do this. Some implementations forgot to display the number. So what happens is the smartphone sees the code, but the car doesn't, and the car just pairs. It accepts it, whatever. It doesn't need the user input. So you can pair to a car by passing user interaction requirement, by passing everything, and just remotely pair to a car that is available. And most cars have IVs available even when they are not completely powered on, or shortly after they've been powered off. So the normal behavior, obviously, would be the right one, where code is displayed, and you wait for user confirmation. So you have an attacker cannot complete pairing without physical access to the car, because he needs to press OK inside the car. While now, in the case of insecure numeric comparison, Charlie can just connect, like if there was no authentication at all. And so this is it for the presentation. To wrap it up, we developed the first state-of-the-art Bluetooth security testing framework. We have over 590 stars on GitHub at the moment, and we're still adding stuff like BLE support, new exploits. And we also performed the first comprehensive security evaluation for Bluetooth in vehicles, covering 22 vehicles, almost 200 vulnerabilities uncovered. We reported the vulnerabilities to the vendors. Some of them said, oh, nice, thank you. Some of them just ignored us. We also uncovered some car-specific and non-car-specific issues, like the contact extractor and the insecure NC, because insecure NC could apply also to other devices, which are not cars, but we are not aware of at the moment. And for that, it's everything. Thank you. If you have any question.